about moving energy here at LEC and all the ways we can move it. All right, well, if you heard last Sunday's talk, then you know that this month we're considering ourselves as the storyteller of our life. Life as we see it. Life as we experience it. And as we said last Sunday, the thoughts we focus on in our mind write our story, and our life experiences as they unfold visibly are like a movie that we're making from the story in our mind. Let there be lights. How could we tell any other story about life than the one we perceive from our own point of view and believe is true? There's not anyone else, anywhere else, who can decide how we'll perceive anything in this life. What we see individually is our thoughts manifesting physically as people and events and conditions in our life. Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet, "There is nothing, either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." It's not what we look at, it's what we think we see when we look. It's our earth story, good or bad. We could say our story is both an autobiography and fiction. Because nothing that happens in this three-dimensional human experience changes the truth of who we are spiritually. If we weren't spiritual right now, we wouldn't be here to tell a story at all. We alone decide how the story goes. With the power of the whole universe backing us up and the law of attraction, bringing us characters and events and conditions that match the storyline we're telling. Our story of the world we see and how we see ourselves in the world is ours to maintain, sustain, or change. It's up to us. No one can tell our story for us because we're the only one living it from the inside out. It doesn't matter how anyone else sees our life or lives their life. What we and they are experiencing is individual. Someone's life may look to us like a Hallmark movie. But if that's not how they're perceiving it, that's not how they're experiencing it. And our life, on the other hand, let's face it, may look like it belongs on the Sci-Fi Channel. And we may be having the time of our life. It's our story. And we can cry if we want to. We can laugh when we want to. We can be positive if we choose to, and feel good because that's what we want to do. But like most of us here, when we realize that our thoughts influence our story and how our story goes, we get a bit more particular and intentional with our thinking. We start to want to catch a thought that doesn't feel good when we think it so that we can change it and not become a bad influence on ourselves. Now, as we mentioned, in keeping with our movie-related theme this month, the title of today's talk is Behind the Scenes. Science of Mind tells us man's personality is not a thing to be lightly spoken of or denounced as ineffective. Within and behind it are boundless possibilities. Our practiced choices which is to say the choices that we make on a daily basis, to feel good or not so good, to be filled with positivity or oozing with negativity, becomes our personality. A human self that appears to be relying on an unseen source within us and behind us, or else a human self that appears to be separate and fearfully acting alone and vulnerable to the world that appears outside of us. Both personalities have boundless possibilities for expression, boundless possibilities for a storyline, and everyone everywhere around the world is telling theirs, just as we are telling ours. It's not always easy to stay positive in a manifested world where we can experience all of it with our physical senses. But the contrast and the duality we see is just what we need to tell our stories. Otherwise, there would be no story to tell. Otherwise, there'd be no awareness of our individual freedom. Otherwise, there'd be no awakening within us to the power behind our choices, and no discovery that we can decide for ourselves how we want to experience the happenings that come with living in a human environment. Now, those of us who know Grateful Jim know that he's an extraordinarily positive individual. In fact, his picture is right next to the word happy in the dictionary. How could he not be so positive when most of us know that his life mantra is there's God and nothing else? Now, I asked him if I could share with all of you the second part of that mantra that he added just recently when he was going in for knee surgery. He said to me, there's God and nothing else, and stuff happens. And I thought that pretty much describes this human environment we live in. Stuff happens. It's how we choose to deal with the stuff that happens that makes all the difference in the outcome physically and in our spiritual growth as well. Nothing has power to make us less spiritual than we are even for a moment. Now, our being happy and positive doesn't prevent unwanted stuff from happening. It's not a defense mechanism. We said last Sunday, we call the good times to us by being in the vibrational neighborhood where the good times roll. And that's true. But that doesn't mean that sometimes the unwanted and the unexpected doesn't roll in. It's our practiced, positive choices every day that creates the vibrational environment behind the scenes that affects our earth story when stuff happens. Science of Mind tells us everything in the so-called material universe is an effect and exists only by virtue of some mental image behind it. Nothing we see is without something behind it. Now, we don't always know all the things we believe until stuff comes along and gives us an opportunity to take a look. and to choose how we'll deal with the effect of some mental image once it appears to us physically. Whether it's stuff that seems big or stuff that seems small or somewhere in between, it's the same truth that gets us through it all. For example, I'm sure we all remember that last Sunday night's forecast was for temperatures in the minuses with the wind chill, and that was pretty much the forecast for the coming week. And I always keep my bedroom window open all year round, just when I sleep, if only just a crack. And so on Monday morning, I wasn't too surprised when I woke up and my nose and cheeks were just a little cold. And they usually aren't, but hey, in the minuses, you never know. And when I got out of bed, I noticed that the carpet was cold too, and that I couldn't seem to get warm even after I put on my slippers and my robe. That's when I checked the thermostat and saw that it was 54 degrees in the house. And I noticed that my furnace wasn't trying to make it any warmer because it wasn't on. Now, when something unexpected and unwanted occurs, no matter how happy we may be naturally, we're not going to say, whoopee! And I didn't. But I did ask myself, is this reaction something I want to perpetuate? And it wasn't. The week wasn't going to get any warmer, and my furnace needed to be fixed, and I knew that I could deal with it in a positive mood or not. Ken Wilber wrote, who happens to agree totally with Grateful Jim, there is nothing but God, nothing but the Spirit in every direction. And not a grain of sand, not a grain of dust, is more or less spirit than any other. So I figured that included my dusty furnace. And an awareness of spirit within everything, including my furnace, was the response I wanted to perpetuate. Now, if we want commiseration for whatever fearful position we've taken, we don't need to be choosy about who we call to share our situation with. Anyone can point out the obvious. You'll never find a furnace repairman today. And with all the cold for the week, and they'll be extra busy, probably all week. You're not going to find anybody who can fix your furnace for a while. Anybody could tell me that. In fact, I called 2 furnace companies that confirmed that very thing as my thermostat dropped to 48 degrees. Now, if we want spiritual collaboration to support our positive position, it's good to choose someone to call, to share our situation with, that we know will do just that. And so I did. I called a friend who dwells in high places, who was willing to join me in knowing that all things work out for good when we expect them to. So the first thing she said when I called is, we'll find someone. And together we did. Buzzing through plenty of phone calls that said, no, we can't make it. We stayed positive, knowing that the universe said yes, no matter what. And so my friend found Alex of Adams Mechanical, who happened to be driving down the road, answered his phone, and said he could be at my house at 2 p.m. And she said, he sounded very nice on the phone, good vibes. And I knew that must be true. But as a universal confirmation, when Alex arrived 15 minutes early and pulled into my driveway, even though the day had been dark and dreary, just for a moment, the sun came out and shined right on his truck. It was a hallelujah moment. Alex was my angel. I knew he was. And I had to tell him when he came in. And he looked so familiar. I just felt like he'd been an angel before in some other life. He told me, oh, everyone tells me that, but I have a face that looks like everyone else, and I always pity the people I look like. And I told him it's a great face. It's the best face I'd seen all day. And so what he told me is that I needed a new motor, that my furnace has two, and that the one I needed was the smaller one. And because it had just stopped working, and he felt totally confident that he'd be able to find one right away that day and put it in, and he did. And the universal icing on that particular event was that the whole cost of it was over $200 less than Alex originally thought it would be. There's God and nothing else, and stuff happens. And when it does, whether it's something that happens to affect our health or our home or our finances or our relationships, we can choose to look for the good in whatever that happening is, because it's always there behind the scenes. In the book of Hebrews, we read, "For by faith we understand that the worlds were fashioned by the word of God, and that these things that are seen now came into being out of those things which are unseen," behind the scenes. The stuff that happens in this world gives us the opportunity to check in with ourselves and ask ourselves, do I believe that God is all there is, even in the midst of stuff like this, whatever that stuff is? Do I believe that the love that creates worlds upon worlds created me? And is all there is, all the time, everywhere, within every condition and situation in this human experience? Stuff allows us to answer after we've asked. If we discover that we do believe that, then we will feel loved and cared for and guided no matter what may appear to be happening in our life. Our divinity doesn't come and go according to situations and conditions, because there's nothing but God in every direction in our life. Accepting what comes, with the awareness that what happens in our human experience doesn't define us spiritually, so that we don't feel like we've done something wrong if we get sick or something happens. And it doesn't interfere with our connection with the divine within. It's just stuff. And when we know that, when we accept it as just stuff, it empowers us not only to get through any situation or condition, but to grow in our awareness of peace as we do. Acceptance of what happens without resistance, without fighting against it or questioning why it's happening to me, opens us to the flow of love. And we have no doubt that it's all good right where we are. Abraham Hicks reminds us, everything is unfolding perfectly. And as you relax and find ease in your attitude of trust, knowing that well-being is your birthright, amazing things will happen. Things the likes of which you have not seen before. Namaste. Okay, well, it's good to see you all. And it's an opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your love and your light, your smiles, your laughter. The energy here moves. It does. And we all feel it. So thank you for being here and sharing yourself in this moment in time. And thank you for seeing us live stream. We're here to be seen. And we're glad that you tuned in so you could. And we feel your love and we feel your energy too. And as you know, we're on an exciting journey of forward movement. And we are looking forward to seeing our new home, even as we love and appreciate and feel gratitude right where we are. And so all that we're about to do, it requires financial support. And I know everyone here supports so beautifully, so thank you. And if you're sitting at home and you're wondering, well, how can I get on that fun? How can I join that happy journey? I know that's just what's crossing your mind right now. And ask, and it'll be answered, is what we say. So, the answer is here by way of our treasurer, Dr. Jamie Phillips.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I'm going to give you all the ways, some of the ways.
Your mic.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Has Jim been talking to you? I'm going to give you all the ways, or at least some of the ways, that you can donate to the Life Enrichment Center and help us prosper and move forward. So the first way is, if you're watching online, you can go to facebook.com/Life Enrichment Center, and there's a donate button on that page, and you can hit the donate button. Or if you're watching this live right now, there's a donate button right under the video. You can go to our website, lecflint.com, and there's a donate button on that site. You can go to PayPal. Our email address for PayPal is lec2512@gmail.com, and you can donate via PayPal. I'm setting it up so that we'll be able to be on Venmo very shortly, and that'll be an additional way to pay. And then also, if you would like to write a check, our P.O. Box is Life Enrichment Center, P.O. Box 321294, Flint, Michigan 48532. And in the sanctuary, we will be taking up an offertory while we listen to Daniel Namad and Nemo Patel singing Grateful, and then Reverend Stephanie will be back for gratitude prayer. Thank you.